Okay, hi everyone, welcome to another How I Play This. Today we're going to be having a quick look at the movement shenanigans you can achieve with units like Berzerkers that can fight more than once, or anything else in the game that can fight more than once. You know, maybe your, I think the Tyrannids can do it with a stratagem, I think Orcs can do it with a stratagem. Berzerkers can do it naturally. You also have the Wrath of Khorne stratagem for 3 command points that they can either use a third time, or you can just have a regular Khorne unit of Chaos Space Marines use it to fight twice. Now I'll start off by saying this is a rule that I've been aware of, you know, since the beginning of 8th really. It hasn't changed in 9th. I've never used it against my opponents. It's never really come up in the game, to be honest. I tend to use rhinos and things to get around the board. But it's definitely pretty useful in potentially maybe a clutch situation. Today we're just going to be looking at a very basic and obvious example of it. I checked the rulebook before doing this. I checked the rule section for the charge phase and the rare rule section at the back just to make sure that I wasn't wrong, and I even looked up the FAQs. And as far as I can tell, this rule still works in 9th edition, the same as it did in 8th pretty much. Now what this is based on is gaining extra movement from piling in and consolidating, even if you're not actually fighting anything. So the reason this works is the wording for fighting. If your unit fights, you're eligible to fight if you're within engagement range and or made a charge move this turn. So if you made a charge move this turn, you're eligible to fight, even if there's no enemy units within engagement range. Just by making a charge move, you're eligible to fight. So what you're looking at here is a 48-inch table. It's a 6x4 table. You're looking at a 48-inch cross section. We've got this ridiculous castle, the Iron Castle, I like to call it, of the Iron Warriors at the back here. Horrible, boring gunline army. And what they've done is they've got a unit of cultists out here on the centre objective. This is the middle of the board, 24 inches in, centre of the board objective. They've moved out turn 1, we're going to assume. And then what you see on the other side is a unit of 10 Khorne Berzerkers. They are deployed 12 inches out of their deployment zone, as in, the maximum 12 inches they can move. And we're going to just assume this is, their turn 1. Now, generally looking at this, you'd think there's no way you could get that unit from their 12-inch zone all the way over to here. But you actually can, because, unbeknownst to them maybe, this unit existing here, or here, or here, or, anywhere, it's actually potentially giving your Khorne Berzerkers a slingshot that they can sort of bounce themselves off of and get far further than they really should do. So what we're going to do is move these Berzerkers 6 inches forwards towards the cultists. I'm a bit wonky, I think, but it's just for demonstration purposes. And then we are going to declare them as a charge target, and we're going to roll our charge range. In this case, I got 6 inches. That's going to get them within range. It's not brilliant. If you have the icon of Khorne, potentially you could re-roll. I'm going to just stick with it for this demonstration, because if I fail, it'll be even worse. Now, one thing you need to remember, and this is why, if you were to get a better roll, which I'm not going to do today apparently. 6 is my highest so far, 7, 11, there you go, 11. So whether you get 6 inches, it's good enough, or 11, what you need to remember firstly, you don't need to move every model to the charge unit. There's actually nothing in the rules that says that every model needs to move into combat, and there's also nothing, unlike with piling in and consolidating, that says you need to move every unit towards the closest unit. So in this case, if I wanted to, so for example, this is another thing to keep in mind, if there was an objective over here, I could move this Berzerker 6 inches over here onto this objective, while also moving these Berzerkers forwards and do it that way, and maybe get the objectives like this. Now, the main thing that you need to do is you need to just make sure that you get this unit within engagement range of all charge targets. So that's why if you multi-charge and you fail one charge, you fail all of them. You need to get this unit within engagement range. Now you can do that with just one model if you want to, like I said, and spread over there to get that objective as well. That's not what we're going to do today. What we're going to do today is try to keep in mind that, because of this, you can essentially overrun them as much as possible. So in this case, I rolled 6 inches to begin with. So in this case, what I would do is I'd take this Berzerker, well, I'd move this guy into combat, but then I'd take this Berzerker and I'd move him the full 6 like this. So as you can see, he's beginning to wrap around the side, and I'd do the same over there. And that's why, as you can see, it would be nice to get, you know, if I had the 11 inches like I had just then, you know, this guy potentially would be up here by now, and this guy would potentially be up here by now, and these guys would be wrapping around. But I'm going to play it as I rolled it. I'm going to play it with the 6 that I rolled, just for the sake of this. But as you can see, that's why you want the extra movement. Now, it's always good to not go into base to base in combat. It's just a good thing to practice. Don't move your models within base to base, because if you're within base to base, you can't move any further with things like piling. So you know, it's very tempting, and you sometimes just do it without thinking about it. You just move straight in base to base, but try not to. Try to always keep, you know, you have an inch engagement range, of course, so try to keep the inch engagement range, because if you take, let's just make it so you can see it on the camera. If this Berzerker was here, he's just within engagement range by an inch. But what this means now is in the pile-in phase, he can pile in 3 inches forward, getting slightly closer to the models each time. Because all you need to do for your pile-in phase is end closer than you were before. You don't need to go in a straight line or anything like that. You just need to be closer than you were before. So this Berzerker over here as well, he's an inch away. What he's going to do is he's going to pile in his 3 inches, getting a little bit closer each time, and then he's going to end up here too. And all Berzerkers are going to do this. So already you've squeezed out a little bit more movement. Now what's going to happen here is in the fight phase, these Berzerkers are going to one round this unit of cultists. They're going to absolutely destroy this unit of cultists. I'm not going to roll for the purpose of the video because there's no point. It's just 10 cultists. They're dead immediately. Now you then get to consolidate 3 inches. So all these Berzerkers could do this. 3 inches forwards. I've knocked myself out of coherency here, so let me move these guys back into coherency. Now, of course, as of the World Eater's Psychic Awakening stratagem, you could pile in 6 inches, spend a CP, pile in 6 inches. So you know, that would get you immediately this close, which is pretty crazy, with another 3 inches. But we're going to not use that today. We're going to assume that, you know, you've lost it for some reason, you haven't got any CP, or you're playing a different army like Orcs or Tyrannids or something, and you're spending your command points to fight again, or something like that. So we're going to ignore the World Eater's 6-inch consolidation for this purpose. However, if you're playing World Eaters, use it. Now what happens at this point is you finish fighting, but because you charged and you have a rule that allows you to fight a second time, you're eligible to fight a second time, even though there's nobody anywhere within engagement range of you. So what you do now is pile in 3 inches. Pile in 3 inches towards the closest enemy unit, like this. And then it's the end of the fight phase. You know, you didn't kill anything, there's nobody there. But now you're also entitled to consolidate 3 inches. You will get to consolidate 3 inches. And again, my coherence isn't great, but I'm just doing it for the purpose of the video. Now already, just from fighting a second time, you're within engagement range of a couple of units. You know, this Berzerker, he shut this Vindicator down. You know, they've tagged this unit, The Iron Warriors here have done a pretty good job of screening their vehicles, screening their Havocs. You know, he knows what he's doing, this Iron Warriors player. But let's say he didn't know what he was doing. There's no screen around this unit of Havocs here. And instead of being a Rhino, this is actually another Vindicator. Let's just say that, because this Iron Warrior player is an idiot and he doesn't know what he's doing. This is just already the second turn of combat. Now, if you want to, you can spend your 3 command points and you can fight again. You're eligible to fight a third time, which means that all of these guys who only just made it into engagement range, they're actually able now to pile in another 3 inches towards the closest enemy model, another 3 inches. Really make sure you'll get in there. And again, this is why you don't go within base to base. You keep that space to maneuver around. And then, you know, and at this point, of course, the Iron Warriors can fight back. They are eligible to fight back. You'd get some combat attacks here. You'd get some, you know, negligible vehicle fighting here, a few combat attacks here. Nothing that's going to stop the Berzerkers. And then you're entitled to consolidate again. You know, this Berzerker, he has to move towards the Vindicator in this case, but he doesn't need to go in a straight line, so he can go like this. He just has to end his movement closer. He can go like this. He's now tagged the Vindicator and the unit of Havocs. This unit of Chaos Space Marines, this Vindicator. You know, point is, and they got there, and that's just some extra movement to really make sure they can wedge themselves in, and you know, get the Havocs as well. And you could pop your 6-inch at this point if you wanted to, make sure that you really got everything you wanted to. But as you can see, I basically got here with just the 2nd-inch movement. So you could really imagine, even if the enemy was even further away, like, you know, let's say there was no front line. They were all squished up at the back like this. There's no front line, and they're all just squished up at the back like this. Like this, trying to be sneaky. Now you can see at this point, if we just rewind it to here, they've killed these cultists that were on the central objective. They've killed these cultists. They move their 3 inches consolidation at the end of this combat because they've killed these cultists. They then fight a second time. They pile in 3 inches. Then the second round of combat is over, so they pile in another, they consolidate another 3 inches. Now, obviously, I'm just doing this quite quickly. If you were doing this competitively, properly, you'd have to, you know, really measure to the closest enemy unit and make sure that as you're doing these pile-in moves, you are technically ending closer to the enemy unit. I'm not bothering right now. I'm just assuming they're all sort of equidistant, you know, for the sake of the video. But do keep that in mind. You're supposed to be doing it towards the closest unit. Now, this time around, because they were further back, they're literally hugging the back edge of the table. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but these rhinos and stuff, they're the back edge of the table now. So as you can see, the second round of fighting, they didn't quite get in. They're still stood out in the open, and now you can fight your third time. Now, of course, I didn't use my 6 inches. Again, if you were using the stratagem to consolidate 6 inches, that would be getting you another 3 inches forwards already, like this. You know, why wouldn't you use it? But because you're Berzerkers, you can, if you want to, if it's important to you, you can spend your 3 command points and you can fight again. So at this point, again, you can pile in another 3 inches. Pile in another 3 inches. You do some combat attacks. Probably don't take much. Well, there's a Demon Prince now, so they're in trouble. But you know what I mean. You won't do any attacks because you know you can't actually fight the things that you didn't charge. I don't think I've said this at any other point in the video, but that's one major thing to keep in mind here. You cannot fight anything that you didn't actually charge. So, you know, your Berzerkers, when we're looking at these Berzerkers, we're just talking about tagging and shutting down, not fighting things. We're just tagging and shutting down. And then, of course, again, you know, you get your 3 inch consolidation even at the end of this range. So the point is, at the end of the day, as long as your opponent is, you know, silly enough or brave enough or naive enough to put a unit quite far forwards that you're able to charge, with a unit like Berzerkers, you can slingshot yourself all the way across the table, you know, on turn 1 potentially, or turn 2 at least. You know, and this is on the old size table. The new tables that they use are even smaller if you're the kind of person that likes those tables. I haven't adapted personally. I'm not going to. I'm going to stick to a 6x4. But you know, if you are using those tables, then it's even better for you because it will be, everything will be even closer together. But you know, here you go. I've just got this unit of 10 Berzerkers all the way across the table. Now, they're not fighting anything, but you know, like I said earlier, you tag the Vindicators, you tag the Havocs. It's brilliant. They can't shoot next turn. There's only a few armies that can. Ultramarines would be able to pull back and fight and shoot at -1 basic skill. Necrons, if they had a Royal Warden, they could do it. You know, the Alpha Legion could, you know, do it with one squad. There's a few units in the game that could fall back and shoot you, but for the most part, you can absolutely just slam a squad of Berzerkers straight across the table and just shut down as much as you can possibly get in range with. Because this is, you know, the main thing you're going to want to do with a World Eater's army. You're going to struggle taking firepower as you get across the table. So if you're fighting a Space Marine army, or you know, Eldar or whatever it is, if you're fighting an army and you're worried about their firepower, but you can see they've had a unit of scouts you know, scouts or ratlings or whatever the Eldar have, rangers, you know, whatever it is, Nurglings, if you're playing Nurgle demons and they've stuck Nurglings out there, you know what I mean? You can just charge one of those units and then use it to slingshot your unit of Berzerkers straight across the table, a good number of extra inches, and just hopefully tie stuff up. And then once this unit, you know, this is a throwaway unit, this is your sacrificial unit, it's just run across the table to type this unit. And hopefully now, if you know what you're doing, if you're a World Eaters player and you know what you're doing, at this point, you know, you've got all your rhinos coming in with more Berzerkers and more Berzerkers, because that's what I've told you to do. More Berzerkers, all the Berzerkers you can get. This unit is just tying up the army, as much of the enemy army as possible, tying it up so it can't fall back and shoot. And then all of your nice tanks and things, you know, they can come over in the later turns, and you've just got more Berzerkers all over the place that you that you could just get in there. So I'll end the video there. I hope this tactic is interesting. I hope it's useful to you. Like I said, I've never used it myself. It just hasn't really come up in the game. I've just tended to, you know, get where I wanted to go in my own time, I guess. But it's certainly a good one to keep in mind. It's pretty nasty being able to exploit all of those pile in and consolidate moves. I really hope somebody doesn't comment in the comments with something that I haven't seen from an FAQ or the rulebook or something and says that this can't work now. But like I said, I checked the rulebook, I checked an FAQ. I can't see anything that says this doesn't work. You know, from changing over to 8th, from 8th to 9th. But there could well be something I've missed. So, you know, keep that in mind. But I hope this was good, and I hope I will see you for another tactics video sometime soon. Thank you and good night.